Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to Memphis Matters with Dee Dee Koen. On today, we have one, I can't even describe him. His name is Dr. Logan Westbrooks. Take out the time and listen to what we're going to talk about on today. And welcome, sir. It's a blessing. It's almost like my Michael Jackson dream. Um, just meeting you, thinking that it'll never happen. And here I am at this point in my life, and I meet somebody that I've been praying for all of my life. I mean, I'm aware of how you open the door for so many executives and the industry. I mean, just I'm just humbled by your presence.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate you.
Share with us, Dr. Westbrooks, about Power 101. I picked it up and I read 47 pages and I couldn't stop.
Well, imagine yourself on a highway, and you at the beginning of this highway, and you're taking a trip. And as you're traveling along this highway, there are various stops that you will make. And it all starts with the Harvard report. In 1972, CBS commissioned me, along with some students from the B School at Harvard, to conduct a study on the viability of exploiting and exposing Black music on a national and then an international basis. So that was my mission. And of course, it was commissioned by not at CBS under the auspices of Clive Davis and Bruce Lundvall.
Wow.
And I was a new hire at CBS at that particular time. And I was hired to implement, to do that study, and then to implement it. So that's really what it was all about. And along the way, there were all kinds of things. There was the creation of the Black Music Marketing Division. And I started out with a staff. I inherited a staff of about 7 individuals. I immediately increased that to 13. And then through the years, that staff numbered to more than 100 people, Black male and female executives, top level positions, top dollar being paid. And of course, it also meant the great influx of Black artists on the CBS label, which included the Eisner Brothers, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Johnny Mathis, Santana, Jackson Five, and the list just goes on and on. There was the International Philadelphia label artists like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, like Teddy Pendergrass, like the OJs, like Billy Paul. And then we started out with a release record on the Philadelphia International label. And it was called Backstabbers with the OJs. And it went gold. Following that was Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, If You Don't Know Me by Now. And following that was Billy Paul,
Mm.
Me and Mrs. Jones. And the list just goes on and on and on. It was a fabulous ride. And of course, along the way, we were adding staff as we increased the hits, as we increased the artists. We also added the staff, which eventually, as I stated before, numbered more than 100 Black individuals in top level positions at CBS. And
What
that
an
was
entrepreneurship.
one of the reasons for writing this book. It lays out the beginning of what took place, why the report was created, and what was done to implement the report. And all of that is laid out in the book. Now, I was only at CBS. I left CBS in 75
Mm-hmm.
when I formed my own label with Don Cornelius and Dick Griffey in Los Angeles, California. And of course, it was called Soul Train Records. And we had some very hit acts of Soul Train Records. Now, when I left CBS, then my co-writer of this book, Sky Trauber, who came to CBS after I left. So I wanted to get the flavor and the feel of what was happening at CBS internally after I had left. And that is the reason for Sky Trauber being a part of this book. And we worked very, very well together. I sort of selected Sky. He is a college professor. He has a feel for giving up knowledge to young college students. And I like that. I taught at the university level for a number of years myself. So I thought it was a good match. And we worked very, very well together in writing this book. And it's out there for the entire world to see and to partake. And also the idea was to do this book in our own words, from our experience, from a Black perspective. So that's really what this book is all about. Power 101, soul music and the American dream.
Awesome, awesome. I tell you, Memphis matters. You matter. We matter. Guess what? I even matter. You know, coming out of Memphis, where was your early beginnings?
Well, this program is really very, very special to me. I was born, bred in Memphis, from the Moen Gardens and then to Lauderdale Sub. Lincoln School in Lauderdale Sub, and then Booker T. Washington High School. And my first 2 years of college was at Lemoyne Owen there on Walker. And then I transferred to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, really following my brother because he was a graduate of Lincoln, the School of Journalism. And I graduated from Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. And then that was the beginning of my work in the business world when I left Lincoln.
Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence right here with Memphis Matters. Memphis Matters is just a dream of mine that came true. I wasn't trying to do anything, but just needed a way out, way out of my head, my situations, how my world was closing in. And I've always been an entertainer, and I went to school, Tennessee State, to become a radio personality. But however, life happens. And I just got the opportunity to go into this radio station, and the guy was want to train some of the best, what's Miss, I can't think of his name right now, Johnny Walker, you know. So when I went in, a Wally Brown, his name is Wally Brown, right here in Memphis. He sat me down and said, "Get rid of the paper. You can't have no paper, just speak to the mic." And I was really scared. So I just focused on the music, because I'm a singer, and then it just led to something else where I came out of it and I stopped being scared, and I found purpose and meaning in what Memphis meant to me. However, I haven't shared it with the world, but I just get out and I go different places and go to landmarks, say like, I want to know where you stayed in Memphis, so I can go take a picture and show you my little award that I won out of LA with Enthroned Records. And so dealing with, just all of that, that's what makes you so special to me. Because see, you got out of Memphis. I'm not from Memphis, but I grew up in Memphis. I'm from Chicago. So when I'm reading all this stuff that you're talking about, I was there when it was Blackstone Rangers was in the streets. I lived not far from 71st Street in Jeffrey. So, and music was huge there at that time. And here I was, 13, 14, trying to sing, wanting to be a singer. I mean, just every day practicing and asking God, "Please, Lord, let me meet Michael Jackson. Let me meet Michael Jackson." And guess what? Michael Jackson came to someplace out in the suburbs with the Jackson family, with the exclusion of Jermaine Jackson. And they did this show, and Michael Jackson jumped off that stage in my arms. I knew there was a God, okay? And I got an opportunity to meet people I never thought would be so big in life. And to see that you were instrumental in helping people like Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I noticed that all your songs were about were meaningful, like put your hands together, for the love of money, things, it was music that had meaning. And my question, I'm saying all of this to ask this question. How do you feel about what has happened to music? It seems like it want to be a termination of R&B music or any kind of soul music like we used to have. Now that when they say music, they're talking about rap music or hip hop music. Ooh, what's your view on that?
Well, I am really saddened by the state of music today. Number one, with your rap lyrics, gangster rap, I think it is deplorable. Our young people listen to that, and this is what they are exposed to, and this is what they are attempting to emulate.
Yes.
Mind you now, this book, Power 101, is dedicated to Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and Tom Bell. And at the beginning of the book, it is a listing of the songs that they wrote and produced. And all of these songs are uplifting songs. And, Kenny Gamble used to always say, there's a message in the music.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what they were doing. They were departing messages in the music. Ain't no stopping us now with McFadden and Whitehead. That was one of their production. There was another song they had called Love Train. Uh, Give the people what they want. For the love of money.
For the love of money.
Wake up, everybody.
Wake up, everybody.
The love I lost. These were the kinds of songs that they were writing. And they did state that there's a message in the music, and it still applies today. Yes, these rap lyrics just being written today, there's a message in what they're saying. And those young people are picking up on those messages, but they're the wrong messages.
Yes.
I think of C. Dolores Tucker years ago at the beginning of rap music, where she was speaking out against the writers of rap music way back then. And she faced a lot of resistance. But what she was talking about then, back in the early 70s, of course, she's deceased now, but God rest her soul. But what she was talking about is this is what's happening. And again, back to Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, there's a message in the music. And this is what why I am so in love with the writings of Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and Tom Bell. And I was determined to dedicate this book to them and their writing team. And that is the reason why. There was a message in the music, and what they were writing, there were good messages that our youngsters were picking up on. Now, also, you mentioned that about Memphis, Tennessee. And again, as I mentioned, I am a product of Memphis, Tennessee. You mentioned Chicago, Illinois. When I left from Memphis, Tennessee, along with a good friend of mine, a young man named J.C. McGraw, we left Memphis together and moved to Chicago. And it was there in Chicago where the first job that I had was with Johnson Publishing Company as a merchandising salesman. And then I heard about a program that RCA Victor Distributing Corps was offering. And I applied for that position at RCA Victor and in their management training program. And I was working in various areas of the company. I ended up in the record division. And in the record division, when I was introduced to the recordings of Elvis Presley, now here I am, a young Black guy from Memphis, Tennessee, working Elvis Presley's product. I mean, it was most unusual. I also was exposed to Sam Cooke then. So those were the two most prominent artists on RCA Victor's label at that particular time, Sam Cooke and Elvis Presley. And
Wow.
then in working Elvis Presley's product and Sam Cooke out in the streets, I heard about a position that was being opened at Capitol Records. They wanted to hire their first Black territory salesman.
Mm.
And that is an individual that goes in and out of the record shops, taking orders on the records that's going to be released on Capitol Records label. And
Oh.
I applied for that job and I was accepted. Then I was exposed to the great Nancy Wilson, the
Oh.
singer. I worked closely with her. I worked closely with Cannonball Adderley. I worked closely with Lou Rawls. These were the artists that was on Capitol Records label at that particular time.
Mm.
And then uh, I got a call from a guy named Irvin Steinberg, who was the president of Mercury Records in Chicago. Now, in working with the Capitol product, I was promoted to a national position, and they transferred me to Los Angeles, California. And while working in that position as the assistant to the national director of R&B music, I heard about this position there in
Mm.
Chicago. And at that point, uh, Mercury Records hired me as their national promotion manager. So I moved back to Chicago, and I was
Mm.
in that position less than a year. Then this is when I got the call from Clive Davis and Lundvall, Bruce Lundvall, which meant then now my wife and I, we packed it and moved to New York City. And then that was the beginning of the big dream, working
Wow.
for the number one label in the country, CBS. And of course, now I worked in that position, CBS domestic. Then I was fortunate enough to work along with a promoter, and we took the Jackson Five to Senegal, West Africa. This was the first trip that the Jackson Five made to Black Africa. And I was instrumental in putting that trip together. We took the Jackson Five family as the guest of the Senegalese government. It was a guy named Senghor. Uh, Senghor was the second prime minister of Senegal. I can't think of the first prime minister who was there when we took the Jackson Five there. But following that particular president was when Senghor came in office. And then, of course, I befriended him while I was on that trip, and it was a number of trips back and forth to to Senegal. Then, prior to going to Senegal, I went to a guy named Walter Yetnikoff, who was the president of CBS International. And I asked him, so I'm in the process of working with a promoter and taking the Jackson Five to Senegal. Does CBS have any business interest in that part of Africa? He said, no. But while
Mm.
you're there, why don't you check it out, do a survey, and let's see what's going on. So while there was the Jackson Five, I did a survey on Senegal and the music scene there. Then I came back to New York when I returned back to my office in New York. And I sat down with Walter Yetnikoff, the president of CBS International. Then he said, why don't you leave CBS Domestic and transfer over to CBS International? And
Ooh.
this is just unbelievable. So now I am
Oh.
working on an international basis. All of my peers that I was working with in the international division, they all spoke several languages. They all had advanced degrees. So this is who I am working with now. And then after I had made the presentation to Walter Yetnikoff, he raised a question. Why don't you take a look at the entire West of Black Africa
Mm.
and see what kind of business interests that we can initiate there in some parts of Black Africa? So I was assigned all of Black Africa and the People's Republic of China. Those are the two that I was responsible for. So immediately I got together and put a little staff together to work on an international basis and conducting this study for Black Africa, which took about 6 months. I had a good friend who was a top Black in the Nixon administration, a fellow named Stan Scott. And Stan Scott was my former roommate at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. So I went to Stan in DC and told him what I was about to do. And then he introduced me to the top people in the State Department and also the International Commerce Department, who would be concerned with business interests in other countries rather, in conjunction with the United States. Stan had just done a trip to Black Africa, and he gave me his entire itinerary that he used and suggested that I use the same itinerary and all of the contacts that he had made in all of those Black African nations as a representative of the United States. He called ahead, and all of those embassies, all of those locations in the Black African nations, he put at my disposal through his clout at the Nixon White House. I put my trip together and I started in East Africa, in Kenya. I spent about a week in Kenya studying the music scene in Kenya. Then I left there and come on through Zaire, the middle part of Africa. I spent about a week in Zaire studying the music scene. Then I came to Nigeria. I spent a week in Nigeria studying the music scene. I also did the Ivory Coast, studying the music scene. I also did Ghana, studying the music scene. And once I had did my field work, I came back to New York and put my report together rather. And then I made my report to Walter Yetnikoff. And then he and his staff, the decision was made to locate a manufacturing plant there in Lagos, Nigeria.
Wow.
Which meant that my wife and I will be moving to Lagos, Nigeria permanently to oversee that project. So those are the kinds of things that was going on. Now, I elaborated on all of those things in this book. And I explained how I moved from country to country. All of that is laid out in this book. And also I told about how this affected Black music on an international basis, primarily in Black Africa. Now, around the same time was when Stax Records became a part of CBS. And it's very, very controversial. Some say that report that was initiated and paid for by Harvard, but by CBS Records, led to the demise of Black record labels, such as Stax, which is 100% owned by Al Bell at that particular time, and also by Motown. Mind you now, there is no longer a Stax Records that's owned and controlled by Black folk. There is no longer a Motown Records that's owned and controlled by Black folk. Some say that study and the efforts of CBS was a deliberate effort to wipe out or to eliminate Black record labels. So that's a question. And I raise that question in my book. And I ask you, reader of this book, Power 101, which incidentally can be purchased anywhere where books are sold. Also on Amazon, you can purchase it online. So it is there, it's out there, and it is available. And all of this is laid out in this book. And when you read this book, I challenge you to make your own decision. Now, was CBS, was it a blessing in disguise, or was it detrimental? mind you now, as a result of the Black Music Marketing Division at CBS, which eventually grew to more than 100 Black male and female top executives, then every other major label in the country created a Black marketing division also. So not only were they working at CBS, there were young Black executives working at all the other major labels. At one time, at the height of the Black music marketing divisions, there were more than 1,000 Black female and male executives. Today, there are less than 20.
Oh my.
So
That's
that
because
question comes up
and I
again.
believe that. I believe
That
that because
question
I'm
comes up
sitting right
again.
here.
Yeah, that question comes up again.
Mm.
Was that effort by CBS that study that was done in 72 that led to this increase of all these Black executives? Did that lead to the demise of Black executives and also the demise of Black record labels wholly owned by Black folk? So that's the question one must face when they read this book and make up your own mind. That's the challenge I give to the reader. So that's where we are in this book. And again, it is available. It is available anywhere where books are sold.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. I would love to continue this conversation because I've got so many more questions. This can be part one. Can we do a part two?
We most certainly can. We most certainly can. And
Okay.
you know, I did these Zoom meetings is a blessing because one can
Yes,
be
it is.
located anywhere in the country. Now, ironically, I'm here in Memphis here right now. Ironically,
Awesome.
uh,
Awesome.
however, I'll be leaving. I'm leaving tomorrow. Tomorrow, going back to Los Angeles.
Oh,
But I will
okay.
be available anytime that's convenient for you. I will be available, and we can expand on this because
Okay.
I really enjoy you, and you have such a beautiful smile.
Oh, thank you so much. I just wish I could have met you when I was younger. But I realize it's never too late.
That's
And
great.
it's
That's
been
great.
an honor. And what I'm reading in your book is so powerful between you and Sky. I'm learning all about what is soul,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
and the dream.
uh-huh.
And I just kept reading. So we are going to continue this
Okay.
conversations, ladies and
Absolutely.
gentlemen. And again, once again, happy holidays. We will see each other sometime today before you
Thank
leave
you. Thank you.
Memphis. And
Thank
I
you.
just hope that your family, Miss Jerry, and everyone is well.
Thank you. Thank you. And many, many blessings to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye now.
I know.